Final thoughts from all of you. Corey, I'll start with you. Anything you haven't mentioned thus far that is a hot take before we say goodnight?
I just think the Liberals, quite frankly, need to provide some accountability in this. That's the one thing they've done terribly over the years, is actually hold people to account for the decisions and determinations that have been there. And it's not just the PM, it's across the board. There are people who really need to reconsider what their commitment to politics should be.
Linda?
Well, I completely disagree with this entire panel, as you'd expect, and really think this was an enormous climate election. It's in Labor's political interest if this disagreement continues, but actually it's not in the national interest. And if people around here and, more importantly, the elected Liberals and Nationals who continue to serve don't hear that message from the Australian people, I fear for our future. Well, you need to unite around the big national challenges, like the fact that climate change is real and happening, and you need to have policies to address them and to make sure the economy can grow at the same time. And just denying that, just wrecking it, just being destructive is the wrong approach for the future.
Andrew, your final thought?
Well, Linda, the easy way of uniting around an issue is for you to agree with me. I mean, you know, why must I agree with you? It's always the way, you know. Well, let's all unite, but you have to unite around me. Now, the thing is about the global warming thing, the Liberals have never made the argument, and therefore you cannot win that argument on climate change. But reality and facts have their own way of settling the argument for you. Example, look at Britain. There was only, last year that the Prime Minister there, Boris Johnson, was raving about global warming as the biggest global warming cheerleader in the world at that conference in Glasgow. Fast forward, less than a year, power prices through the roof, gas shortages, electricity shortages. Suddenly he's running away from that at 1 million miles an hour. Reality has its own logic. Reality has its own convincing power. And I would suspect that 3 years from now, electricity prices are a real issue. Electricity shortages are a real issue. And suddenly, a lot of people who voted green and global warming because they didn't hear the other argument for a start, and they thought it was very fashionable and nice and a way to show they're good, are going to think, good God, no one told us it would cost this. And that's when the Liberals have an argument to make.
Yeah, exactly. Bronwyn, last one.
We should have been making that argument all the time. The fact of the matter is the job of the government and the job of the opposition is to talk about keeping this country in good order, in serving the people so that they can prosper. Now, that means you've got to have energy which is ready and available all the time. The reason, Linda, you can say that this was a climate change election that you won is because we didn't bother to fight it. We abrogated, we got out of the picture. And you can't do that. You've got to stand up for the things that you believe in, and you can't go from one day saying, I'm a man holding up a lump of coal, look, don't be afraid of it, and then saying nil emissions by 2050. It just doesn't gel. Now, Morrison did good stuff while he was Prime Minister. Credit where credit's due. He did some very good stuff. But the fact of the matter is, when it came to a real fight, you've got to have something to fight for. You can't just say, look, I've done well, look at my record, and vote me in. You have to give people something to fight for. And those teal people walked in. There was nothing to fight against them with because we'd abrogated
and I'll give you
our
the tip.
argument.
They're not going anywhere for a long time.
It's true. Once they get in, it's very hard to get rid of them.
Correct.